Hello, my friends, and welcome to another one of our cemetery episodes exploring. This time we are in Atlanta, Georgia. We are at the world-famous Oakland Cemetery. This is downtown Atlanta. Very historic cemetery. There's a couple of specific graves I'd like to show you here today, but before we get to that, I'm going to ask you, if you haven't done so already, join us today as we do just a little exploring. The Oakland Cemetery here in Atlanta, Georgia is definitely one of the more historic ones in Atlanta. A lot of the founding fathers of Atlanta have found their final resting place within these hallowed walls, as have a handful of, well, not political or even civil names, but names you might recognize anyways. But until we get there, I want to show you some of the very cool stonework that I'm seeing. This is absolutely amazing. Look, they've even got like a little garden around this particular piece of statuary. As you can see, this is generally a very well-kept cemetery, at least the parts that I'm seeing so far. It does go back quite a ways, so we won't see the entire cemetery today, but we're going to show you some of the more interesting pieces that we come across in the meantime. This particular cemetery, as I said, was built in downtown Atlanta. We have internments that go back to the 1800s, of course. As you can see, much like some of the other cemeteries you see in Georgia, they are built in plots. Some of them are elevated, some of them are dropped down a little bit. But it does make it a little bit easier to find your way around. This particular cemetery, however, features a series of streets that, they're for walking only. But they kind of walk between the plots, and it makes it a little bit easier to find your way around. As you can see, there are definitely some very old tombstones here mixed with some newer ones. This is still an active cemetery. And as you can see, there are people who are wandering around and touring a bit. Also worth pointing out, you can definitely see the area around here is it's a hopping neighborhood. There's a lot of restaurants, there's some clubs, a lot of condos and luxury apartments. But if you come in from the other direction, it is much more humble, shall we say. We saw a lot of homeless people, several of them sleeping in the streets. So if you do come out here, just understand there is quite a diverse neighborhood around here, and plan accordingly. Never know what you're going to find. Case in point, these folks were generally buried in the 1800s, as you can see from some of the tombstone dates. I just want to point out what I meant about the very ornate stonework and the individual plots where entire families are interred. I'm sure there's a story behind that swan, but nothing is really written here about it, so we'll just kind of have to guess. One of the older sections, as you can see again, there are quite a few tombstones back here that go quite a ways back. They butt up against the wall. There's another entrance to the cemetery right up here, and I did see a few people on a tour walk over here and take particular interest. Okay, I think I see what they were looking at now. I believe this is what they were looking at, is the Bobby Jones story, notable golfer of yesteryear. As you can see right here, there's actually quite a few golf courses that have been named after him as well. But they've got a little plaque for him here, and coming around the corner, I actually don't see a specific spot for him, although there is this bench, which could be, it could be that this is unmarked, but I'm not entirely sure. This is This is interesting. Very thoughtful looking area, however. Actually, there's a sign right here, golf great Bobby Jones and music legend Kenny Rogers. So a little bit of a spoiler alert as to what we're going to show you today. According to the sign right here, golf great Bobby Jones is right down this area. And considering all the golf balls I see over there, I think I know which one we're going to. Here you go, Robert Tier Jones Jr., born 1902, passed away 1971. As you can see, there have been many golf fans who have already been over here, and I believe I see somebody created a minifig as well. If you were interested in seeing this particular one, it is against the wall, up against what is currently, at least, the Lumen Park establishment. I think those are apartments. And it is definitely worth walking out here. We're going to start heading that direction. There's a couple other things that I'm seeing immediately that I would like to show you. First of all, there's this. Resurgence, 1847, Atlanta, Georgia, 1865. Sandra and Sam Massel. Says here, Sam Allen Massel Jr., Vice Mayor and President, Atlanta City Council. And then Sandra Gordy Massel, member of extended Massel family since 1985, First Lady of Buckhead. So, community leaders right here. Beautiful stone. Looks like they have a number 1974 for Samuel, but I do not see a date for Sandra Massel, so I'm guessing she has not passed away yet, thankfully. Also, take a look at the tombstone here, the skulls that are carved into it. You don't see that very often anymore. Again, we have some older ones over here. Looks like early 1900s when they passed away. But we're going to turn ever so slightly, and you can see the black marble structure up ahead. That is the final resting place of the gambler, Kenny Rogers.
You got to know when to hold, when to hold.
Personally, I was born in the late 70s, so I grew up late 70s through, I'll call it late 80s for my formative years. But Kenny really hit his stride during that period of time, and certainly one of the artists that made a very big impression on me as a child. As funny as it may sound, one of the earliest memories I have was Kenny Rogers singing The Gambler on the Muppets. And now, to be here, I mean, just very, very surreal. But, you know, beautiful, ornate marble work.
Know when to fold down.
This is newer, of course. Kenny only passed away a few years ago, but he is laid to rest inside of that tomb right there. To be this close to Kenny Rogers is a little crazy, actually. Died way, way, way too young. He was not all that old.
Know when to walk away.
Just took a quick moment to pay my respects to Mr. Rogers before we start heading away.
Then somewhere in the darkness, the gambler he broke even. But in his final words I found an ace that I could keep.
As you can see over here, there are a lot of very similar tombstones, which usually means a lot of military. And going by the lack of dates on here, on these tombstones, but the general condition that they're in, I am guessing we probably have some Civil War. And you would definitely find that sort of thing here in this area, no doubt about that. Okay, yes, confirmed. Confederate States Army. So this is largely Civil War era. Now, I've said this in a few of my other videos. Finding Civil War areas in cemeteries in the South, not uncommon. They generally tend to be, as you can see, here's a non-military area. Right over here is the Civil War area. They tend to be very uniform and very clean. Oftentimes they are adopted, the plots are adopted by groups like the Daughters of the Confederacy, who take up and take responsibility for keeping the areas up. So that is probably what is happening over there. Another plaque here, the legacy of Bobby Jones. Obviously a favored son here in Oakland Cemetery. He is over there. Got a sign here, there's a visitor center just over here. Might start heading that direction momentarily. We followed the path back. This is the visitor center that was marked. It looks like there's a whole bunch of chairs up there. Like I said, they're giving tours, so that's probably why. The way that everything has been landscaped back here is very surprising. Got a few here, 1880, 1892, 1901. Looks like some of the plants back here are starting to overtake a few of the stones back there. Also kind of surreal to see all these spider webs in these bushes right here. Wow. I passed this one on the way and certainly had to turn around. Austell, Kennedy, and looks like Thornton are the three names that I see on this particular structure. Without a doubt, one of the largest structures that I've seen back in this particular cemetery. They've put a sitting area over here. And I have to say, the amount of variety in this particular cemetery is just unbelievable. I'm honestly not sure I've ever seen a cemetery like this one that has such a huge variety of different stonework, different landscaping, different construction of mausoleums and crypts. And then again over the visitor center, which is also called the Bell Tower. It's right there. It is not open. We're on a weekend, but as we showed earlier, a lot of seats up there on the second floor where I believe they do tours and probably classes and meetings and things like that. I believe they're getting ready to close the cemetery down for the day. It is a Saturday after all. We are in the evening. There's one more interment that I really want to find and to show you. So we're going to jump back in the car and see if we can find it. Right over here, Colonel Joseph F. Burke, looks like he was in the Confederate States forces defending Charleston, South Carolina when it was invaded. Next to him, Alexander Hamilton Stevens was vice president of the Confederacy. Died while governor of Georgia. I think, and I could be wrong, I see the last one that I wanted to show you over here. Just up this road a little bit. This is one of the older parts of the cemetery, one of the original areas. Yes, here it is. This right here is a plot for the Mitchell family. And there's obviously a lot of Mitchells. It's a fairly common name. In this case, we are celebrating Margaret Mitchell. She was the author of the book Gone with the Wind. And as you can see, her final resting place is right here. Margaret Mitchell Marsh, born in Atlanta, Georgia, November 8th, 1900, died in Atlanta, Georgia, August 16th, 1949. So she only lived, unfortunately, to be 49 years old before she passed away. Now, she's not too far away from the wall at the front of the cemetery. Well, I guess you could kind of call this the back, depending on which area you came in. The area we came in, I'm going to call it the front, even though I think you can probably make an argument either way. But she's not too far away, but she's here just past the intersection. The nice thing is you could follow these signs like this one right here, and they will show you where you need to go. And as you can see from the pennies and nickels and dimes, she has certainly been visited by some of her fans. Now, I could easily wander the cemetery for the next couple days and be perfectly happy because there's just so much history here. But the fine folks who staff this cemetery would probably like to go home, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of cut it off right here. If you haven't done so already, reach down below, hit the subscribe button, and I would love to know in the comments section below these historic cemeteries we've been doing lately. Do you enjoy them? Do you like cemeteries as much as I do? Let me know down below, and we'll see you next time when we do Just a Little Exploring.